Now I would like to welcome, I'd like you all to enjoy your salads quietly while we hear from our IWP founder, Chancellor, President Emeritus, and remember, he's so tall because how else could God have put all of that information in one body? President Emeritus, Dr. John Lenczowski.
Thank you, John Smyth, for your service here and your service to the Institute. Thank you, Tim Field and Father Nathaniel, for your contributions tonight. I would also like, I want to really begin my remarks here by thanking all of you who are members of our Chancellor's Council, our trustees, our advisors, our volunteers, our faculty, our staff, our students, and our alumni. All of you have been making our mission possible, and it has been a great privilege and blessing for me to have worked with you for our cause over these years. And in my new capacity as Chancellor, I look forward to continue working with you. I'd like to thank also my wife Susan, who can't be with us tonight, for all she's done for me and for our entire team here. Her love and support have been amongst my greatest blessings. Thank you. I'd also like to thank the Lord Almighty for sustaining us for 31 years. We have never missed a payroll in all of that time. And that includes in our first year when our budget was $83,000 for the whole IWP. And the second year when the whole budget was $200,000. And so it goes. This is contrary to all the laws of nature and probability. And so, if you suggest you can try to suggest many different irrational explanations for this, but providence is the only rational one. I'd like to express my gratitude to America for giving us the freedom to establish and build IWP. We still have some freedom of speech and academic freedom left in this country, and it can be found here in the classrooms and corridors of the Institute. As one of our trustees declared in our board meeting yesterday, IWP is a safe space for freedom of speech. Our republic is a rare and precious gift to those of us who live here. We are the luckiest people in the world. Some Americans don't think so, but they have never seen how most everyone else in the world lives. And, or they haven't seen how people have lived in the midst of poverty, squalor, corruption, and strife throughout so much of human history. We who appreciate the inheritance that we've received have a very special obligation, and that is to bear witness to what is special about America and why it is worth defending. IWP is dedicated to this task, and we prepare leaders to do that job with maximum intellectual and professional preparation. Today, we had the formal inauguration of the new president of IWP, Dr. and the Honorable James Anderson. He has spent his life as an intrepid defender of our republic. He has served as a Marine, as an intelligence officer. He has taught at the George Marshall Center for Security Studies in Germany. He has been in charge of the Israel policy and Middle East policy in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. He served as Dean of the War College at the Marine Corps University, and then as Vice President for Academic Affairs for the entire university. He was responsible for the education of some 60,000 Marines, and he developed the university's first doctoral program. Most recently, he has held 3 of the most important policy positions in the Pentagon: Assistant Secretary of Defense for Strategy, Plans, and Capabilities, Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, and most recently, Acting Undersecretary for Policy, the highest policy-making position underneath the Secretary of Defense. He is dedicated to the preservation of American founding principles, those principles that have given us our freedom, and he is dedicated to those principles of Greco-Roman, Judeo-Christian moral philosophy and their applied ethics that should guide those who serve in positions where life and death decisions must be made much more often than we would like. Please welcome a patriot, a gentleman, a scholar, and the new president of IWP, Dr. James Anderson.
Thank you, and love that jazzy music. And let me start by thanking our founder, John Lenczowski. I mean, the reality is that none of this would exist without his vision and his determination 31 years ago, and his commitment over those 3+ decades to sustain IWP and create this wonderful community for the benefit of our republic. Please join me in a round of applause for John Lenczowski. So one of my former Pentagon bosses, actually former Secretary Don Rumsfeld, who passed away not too long ago, was fond of saying to briefers, be brief, be factual, and be gone. So I'll try to do something like that here tonight. So sometimes it's when we look at the world and the facts that are presented to us, it can be a bit daunting and even a bit depressing at times. If we look around the world and we see the great power competition and what the Russian Federation is doing, what the People's Republic of China is doing, with those rogue actors, Iran and North Korea, and don't forget about those international terrorist groups that keep regenerating themselves. It looks pretty bleak at times. And then closer to home, all of us, every day, we look around our great country and we see that things are not what they should be. There's political divisions and acrimony. There's political correctness at some of our finer universities that should know better. It's not a pretty picture. And some of those foreign adversaries are seeking to intensify and to exacerbate those internal divisions that confront us. So it can be a bit grim and a bit glum at times, but come with me and we'll travel through time real quickly and look at some situations where outnumbered and outmaneuvered and outgunned people with a selfless devotion to a higher cause manage to set powerful examples. So we'll go back to Greece. I know we were in Greece this afternoon in the inaugural address, but bear with me. So at that hot gates in Thermopylae, so we had King Leonidas and his 300 Spartans, and in the distance they see clouds of dust. rising because they know that it's Xerxes and his vast Persian army. And the clouds of dust become closer, and they can actually feel the earth begin to tremble because that army is so large. And a Greek comes up to Leonidas and his fellow Spartans and says, "Watch out. The Persian archers are so numerous, they will blot out the sun with their arrows." To which the Spartan reply, typically laconic, said, "Great, we will fight them in the shade." So they were unfazed by being outnumbered and outgunned. We go from the hot gates to the cold and Arctic hills of North Korea in 1950. The Korean War, the Chinese divisions had been streaming across the border. And there is the 1st Marine Division and Colonel Chesty Puller, one of the most decorated American military men in our history. And they are encircled by multiple Chinese divisions. So informed of this, Chesty Puller, so named because he was sort of barrel-chested, he said, "That's fine. We have been searching for the enemy for many days, and he has found us. We are surrounded." That simplifies things, right? That simplifies things. And they proceeded to annihilate 7 Chinese divisions. Closer to home, let's go to a Birmingham jail in April of 1963. And there is Martin Luther King in a solitary cell for a time without even a mattress. And he has some scraps of paper, and he begins to write this famous letter answering his critics. And in that letter, he references natural law, he references Sir Thomas Aquinas, and he references Jewish philosophers, showing his study of history. And he reaffirms at this moment, clearly and unequivocally, a commitment to nonviolence. I mean, here's a man alone in a cell paying a heavy price, and he would pay ultimately the ultimate price. And he could have become a lesser man and become embittered, but instead he remained steadfast in that commitment to nonviolence. Let's jump ahead to our cousins across the pond. 1984, the Brighton Hotel, the Grand Hotel. And there is none other than Maggie Thatcher and much of her cabinet spending the night preparing for an important conference the next day. 2:54 a.m., Maggie is still awake, working away on behalf of the United Kingdom, and a bomb that was planted by an IRA terrorist a month earlier goes off in the middle of the night, killing 5 and wounding more than 30. Thankfully, Thatcher and her husband were not injured, although their suite was severely damaged. So she had the presence of mind. She was sped off to the nearest police station. There was an impromptu press conference, and she stared right into the camera, and with poise and with dignity and with calm addressed the situation and said, by the way, the conference goes on tomorrow morning. This was like at 4 a.m. So she grabs about an hour of sleep. They open up one of the department stores, so everyone who had all their clothes ruined from that bomb could attire themselves appropriately. And sure enough, the conference kicks off on time, business as usual, the Iron Lady. So disparate events and examples, but they all have something in common. All of these individuals believed in a higher cause. And because they did so, their actions, the actions of one person, were of profound consequence. And it required courage, great courage, and that is something that we seek to instill in our students. We seek to promote it, to inculcate it, to foster it for the greater good. Because I can assure you, and here I'm talking to the students who grace our presence today, that in the course of your careers, you will be tested, right? And you will be challenged. And you must be able to sleep at night and look yourself in the mirror and make the right decision and speak truth to power. And so it is an honor tonight just to say a few remarks. I know we have a wonderful keynote address later on tonight, and we can all look forward to that. But I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for this opportunity to serve as the second president and to build upon the foundation that John Lenczowski has established. Good evening.